This was the first time any of us had done the Cape Chignecto Loop, but we each have a background in camping and hiking, so we were well prepared for the trip ahead.
Blue team, here we go, team blue team.
When we started off, we were able to head right across the beach since it was low tide. From there you take the stair access up, and then we continued on to Millbrook. Our original intent was to take 3.5 days, or 3 solid days, to do the hike. But in the end, we ended up completing this in slightly over 48 hours. Our first day was 13 kilometers approximately. It wasn't too bad. There were some ascents and descents that are pretty steep, a couple of switchbacks between Millbrook, Archbrook, and of course the large descent into Refugee Cove. Overall, it was an excellent day and quite warm for this time of year.
Hi there.
Refugee Cove was a great spot to spend our first night. We got there just before supper time. As we got there, there was a couple on the beach with a dog. Their intention was to camp there. The campsites are about 300 meters up Refugee Cove Brook.
Water filter time.
The old pumper.
Originally, our second day of hiking was supposed to be our shorter day, and we were going to end up stopping at Big Bald Rock campsite. However, with the impending bad weather forecasted for Sunday, we decided to move things up and do the hike all the way to Seal Cove. Day 2. Nothing like starting your day with a little switchback at a Refugee Cove. That was quite the ascent. Along the French Lookout and Broad Cove, we realized we might as well take a stop at Cape Chignecto. It's a great spot to take a little break and have a quick snack. When we got to Little Bald Rock, we realized it was a perfect spot to stop and have our lunch. We were stopping at every single spot and taking way too much time. With the 20-kilometer hike ahead of us, we realized we had to reduce the amount of stops. So we tried to limit them to only the most scenic of locations from there on in. When we arrived at the crossing at Big Bald Rock Brook, we ran into the couple with the dog we met the first night at Refugee Cove. They offered some good advice for the next day for the bad rain that was forecasted, suggesting that we should look at taking the Eatonville Road back to the visitor center. Similar duration, but chances are it wouldn't be as washed out as the main trail.
No, they're behind it. They're at the brook. I said Big Bald Rock is further up.
The Big Bald Rock Lookoff is amazing, and this hike is worth it for this view alone. There was a number of difficult switchbacks from the stretch forward, namely from Keyhole Brook and Carey Brook in particular, were definitely some challenges. We were losing daylight, so we were trying to book it as fast as we could from here on in, but carefully so. We didn't arrive at Carey Brook until just before dusk.
We have to go up there.
We realized we weren't going to make it to Seal Cove until after dark, so we didn't spend a lot of time in Carey Brook, but if you do have the opportunity, I suggest you stop. It is the most beautiful location.
Up we go. Nice view.
Let me set up our last day like this. 5 hours of hiking, 17 kilometers, about 4 hours of torrential downpour. Things got pretty miserable pretty quick.
Yeah.
Seal Cove campsite, on our way through Eatonville now. Last leg, longest leg, supposedly easiest leg, but
That's what they say.
but we're a little.
But the rainiest leg.
The wettest leg.
The wettest leg.
The only little reprieve from the rain that day was when we arrived at Green Point, and we had a most excellent view of the Three Sisters across the Eatonville Harbour. 4 kilometers from Green Point to Elliott Brook at the Eatonville Day Use parking location, they got considerably wetter and muddier, and from there we had to make a decision.
We're at Eatonville. We have 2 options: this 14-kilometer soaking wet and flooded trail, as we just went up there a ways on our way to the bunkhouse, or we have to hike the road back. But it is raining very heavily. We're totally going to take the road, even though that's almost as long. On the road, which is almost as washed out as the trail.
The Eatonville Day Use Park. We ended up on the Eatonville Road. From there, all the way to New Yarmouth, the road is mostly uphill.
Woo. Everything is soaked.
In its current condition, as you can see here, it was pretty washed out. When a member of the Parks Department did stop and offer us a ride, all 3 of us politely declined. We insisted, we're finishing this thing on foot.
We're on the home stretch. We can see the water.
After that grueling 5-hour hike in the rain, we decided to stop in Parsboro at the Black Rock Bistro to have a celebratory meal and a much welcome drink. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat.